And today on CBC Sports Weekend, we're going to be bringing you the men's team competition. And on the line, spots to the Beijing Olympics. Canada's men's team was considered shoo-ins to make it to China, but now there's been a wrinkle in that plan. And with more on that, let's join the other member of our team here in Stuttgart, two-time Olympian Laurie Strong-Ballard. Laurie?
Brenda, the Canadian men's team come into these World Championships with tremendous momentum after a Canadian best sixth-place finish at last year's World Championships in the team final. But since then, top all-arounder Nathan GAFUIK broke a bone in his wrist. He had surgery and that has affected his training. He will compete at these World Championships, but probably not at the top of his game. And then in March, Adam Wong, Canada's best ever finisher in the all-around at last year's World Championships, tore his Achilles tendon. At that point, the national head coach, Edouard Yarev, called up Casey Sandy, a former national team member who's been competing at Penn State University. He asked her to come back and start training for this event, and Casey has a key role here. He will compete on 6 events. But the biggest blow for the Canadian team came when Kyle Schufelt, the Olympic gold medalist on floor, broke both his knees while training here in Germany. Kyle puts up world-class scores on 3, maybe 4 events for this team, so now all of a sudden, several team members need to step up and fill in the scoring voids. So what was once probably a sure thing to qualify a full team to the Olympic Games now becomes a much bigger challenge.
And Laurie, Canada qualified a men's team to the 2004 Olympics, but prior to that, we have to go all the way back to 1988 when a full Canadian men's team competed at the Games. There is no shortage of support for Canada here today at the Hans Martin Schleyer Hall. There's the injured Adam Wong looking on with the Canadian women's team, who, by the way, failed to qualify a team for next summer's Olympics. And also here, Kyle Schufelt, there he is. And Kyle said he wanted to stay here as moral support for the 6 athletes who are trying to finish in the top 12 today. The Canadian men will start on the weakest of 6 events for them, the Pommel horse, and this is the guy they call Mr. Dependable, Fall River, Nova Scotia's David KIKUCHI.
It's very important to have a sure thing lead off. A first up hit means that the pressure is relieved for the other athletes. And starting on the Pommel horse for the men is like starting on the beam for the women. Pressure, nerves, tightness, all play a factor. David doing an excellent, clean routine so far. Now, Canada knew they'd be starting on the Pommel horse months in advance, and they've been training for it, and that means doing extra numbers in the gym. It also means on their light days, they still had to come in and hit a routine on the horse, and it paid off here for David.
And here's how this qualification event will go. There are 6 gymnasts per team. 5 will compete on each of the 6 apparatus. 4 scores count. And as I said, the top 12 teams will earn a spot to the 2008 Olympics. David KIKUCHI and this man, Casey Sandy, are the only 2 Canadians who will be competing on all 6 apparatus in this event.
Injuries to Adam Wong brought Casey Sandy back to this team as the alternate, and then the injuries to Kyle Schufelt means that Casey has to compete on all 6 events. He has a key role here. He has a long pommel horse routine. It's full of difficulty. He's gained some valuable experience competing in the NCAA at Penn State University over the last couple years. They were the national champions this year. He got to visit the White House and President Bush, and now competing in his first World Championships. Excellent routine.
And the expectation, Laurie, is that David and Casey's scores will be high enough to send them into the men's all-around competition. Here is Ken IKEDA. He comes from a very well-known Canadian gymnastics family. His brother Richard was an integral part of the Canadian men's team for years, and Richard is now retired and has actually joined his father Mitz in the coaching profession.
And for Ken, this is his best event. This is what he's known for. And so far, the Canadian team has had no misses on this event. That's great news. Showing some great single pommel work there. Very difficult to maintain balance. Rhythm and timing is so important on pommel horse. All of these hand placements are blind. Ken has several national titles on this event. But it's interesting, the Canadian team has chosen to not put him last up, which is usually where you put your star athlete, your big scorer. The reasoning behind that is they want to relieve a little bit of pressure and hope to get a strong hit out of him, and that's exactly what they get here. Full pirouette into the dismount, another strong routine for the Canadian team.
And they would have the 11th best team score in this event. Always a relief to have the most difficult apparatus of the team final out of the way. Here's Scott Russell with David Kikuchi.
David, were the indications there from the beginning? I mean, you start on the most difficult event, which is the pommel horse, and it's been Canada's nemesis over the years, and yet did you get the feeling that once there were no misses there, that this was going to be a good day?
Yeah, kind of. The pommel horse is the easiest to make a mistake on, and to hit, all of our guys hit on pommel horse, and that kind of gave us a momentum boost, and yeah, we felt good after that.
Now to the second rotation for the Canadians, the rings. And this is Maple Ridge, British Columbia's Grant Golding. He trains with Tony Smith out of the University of Calgary.
And Grant actually retired for a moment a few years ago. He started training for Cirque du Soleil, then decided he missed the sport of gymnastics, which is a good thing for this Canadian team. He certainly increases the depth of the team. He's good in the all-around and fantastic on the rings.
Well, he didn't make the Canadian team that went to Athens, so he's as motivated as any of these Canadian gymnasts to see this team qualify for 2008.
Showing off some strong swing elements there, a little uneasy with the rings. Maintains his stability there in the handstand and the dismount, full twisting double layout. Hop on the landing, 1/10 deduction.
His score, 15.0, that is a solid score for Golding and for Team Canada. Coming up next is David Kikuchi. We'll see him once again, and he too is looking obviously for a spot on that Canadian Olympic team next summer, and he has hinted, Lori, that if he competes in Beijing, he may retire after that.
Well, he's already had a very long and successful career. He's the Canadian national champion right now, and he is the rings champion. And you'll see why with his great difficulty and beautiful positions in that iron cross, pressing up to a Maltese, bounce back to an iron cross. They must hold these strength elements for at least 2 seconds. David has the most difficulty on the routine, and that will show in his score. 2 panels of judges. The A panel looks at the difficulty of the routine, and the B panel looks at how well the athlete does it. They take deductions for execution and start from a score of 10. The A and the B scores are added together for the final score.
And Nathan GAFUIK and Casey Sandy also competed on rings. Casey, with a strong 14.625 score, kept the Canadians right on track for that top 12 finish.
This year we brought back Casey to join the team, which actually turned out to be very, very helpful in the long run. He does all 6 events, so that definitely helped the team on especially rings, where we're not so strong right now.
And there is team physiotherapist Susan Masidi working on Grant Golding's shoulder after rings. Every one of these events certainly takes its toll on these athletes. Now to rotation 3 and the vault. And Lori, the Canadians will see a jump in their scores after this event. Calgary's Nathan GAFUIK, he was the silver medalist on vault at the Commonwealth Games.
And it's hard to forget the image of Nathan nailing that vault at the last World Championships when Canada qualified to the team final. Another good landing here, just a tiny hop on his Yurchenko 2.5.
So that was score 16, and that would be the 14th best score on vault in this competition.